Welcome guys, today I'm not doing an episode of LD Light. As you see, I have the recent patch notes with me here. I'm going to quickly go over them and read what I think about them and talk about it a little bit. I'm not going to take up too much of your time, I'm going to quickly rush through them. So let's get back to the start. The first and foremost is Vanessa. It's definitely a buff. The pros, you don't need to waste a turn in order to revive, so that's a good thing. It's basically some kind of a weak perna that you make of your allies. Whenever they die, they come back with 50% HP, with 30% HP, sorry, and attack buff. So it's not bad. We'll see how it goes. The cons, however, she now becomes susceptible to Tessarion's passive, the Oblivion. The Water Monkey. The Water Monkey now has 4 hits that potentially strip something, so immunity or the shield from Wusas or something like that, which is good against Rakan and a Laika with Will Runes or something like that. It's good. The cons, however, his second skill is still shit. Still very bad. Okay, up to the next one. The Beast Monks, Water and Dark. This is a very, very strong buff. Whenever they hug someone and you attack someone with the hug, they will counterattack, especially with Chandra's first skill. This is very amazing, because Chandra stuns on his first skill, and that could become very annoying. The Fire Hell Lady. The Fire Hell Lady received a small buff, making her harder to kill whenever she kills someone. It's not enough to be significant in my opinion, but it's still a buff. So hang on, Fire Lady users, maybe she'll get another buff in the future. The Dark Panda. Whenever he has used his third skill, his first skill will now do extra damage. That's good. However, Zhang Fei should receive kind of the same buff, because Zhang Fei literally does so weak damage. Also, Zhang Fei's damage doesn't scale with defense, and he's a defense unit, so he doesn't make as much sense as the other pandas. Like the water and the wind one, they make sense, the fire doesn't. Up to the next one, the Dark Brownie Magician. He becomes a semi-reliable stripper, kind of a budget Gianna. He now makes both harmful effects and beneficial effects into turns of sleep. So if you have 2 buffs on him and 3 debuffs on him, you could potentially sleep the enemy for 5 turns. Potentially. I have him, I will build him, we'll see about that. The Fire, the Wind, and the Dark Heart Magician now receive some kind of a Konamiya buff. Now their second skill will AoE cleanse, heal, and give immunity for 1 turn. So basically 4-star Konamiya without the research ability, however, but they have other very, very good skills in their skill set. The Wind also receives a small buff on her third skill, her passive skill. Now 2 cooldown turns will be taken off by that. Next up is the Fire Horse. It's a small buff. His third skill will now reduce the attack bar to 0, which makes him somewhat usable in TOA. Maybe some pesky stages with high damage, because you got the defense buff and the anti-crit buff as well in his kit. But I don't think it's enough to be significant yet. Maybe he will receive another buff in the future, but we'll have to see about that. The Fire and the Light Lich Sinkhole will now absorb up to 75% of the attack bar of the enemies, which is very good. He almost gains another turn by that, whereas therefore it was only like half an attack bar. The Light Lich also received another buff. He will now steal HP from the enemies whenever his passive has popped. So whenever the invincibility buff is on him from his passive, I don't think it will work with other invincibility monsters, but we'll have to see about that. He will steal HP, 10% HP of the enemies. So that is very, very good whenever they gain a turn. The Water Undyne now gives 1 turn immunity whenever you revive someone. It's a small buff, but still she is a free-to-play reviver. With the potential stun on the first skill, or the freeze on the first skill, it's still viable. It's pretty good for a free-to-play unit, which is fusible. The Wind Dice Magician, however, received a huge buff now has potential to revive your whole team with 80% HP. That is so OP. Build yours very tanky to get the results, because yeah, I'm looking pretty forward to that. Next up is the Light Hark. The Light Hark, I had a bit of trouble understanding what they mean by this, but as far as I understand, he now boosts the enemy with the lowest HP, which is usually a nuker, and it initially makes him somewhat more dangerous. So gives him the attack buff, gives him the regeneration, which isn't that much of a help, or the endure ability, which makes him first turn some kind of a Theomars without the Elemental King. But if you combine it with a Perna, Perna always has Elemental King, so... Next up is the Light Bearman. The Light Bearman is just a heal buff. It's now 20% instead of 12% of his max HP that he heals. He's still very stat hungry and does no damage whatsoever. It's very, very little damage that he does. So maybe if they one day buff the damage, he will be very viable. However, on LD Light, my alt account on which I do a series, with only light and dark monsters, he may become a pretty decent healer again. Next up is the Light Neostone Fighter. He will sequentially do more damage because he attacks, gains a shield, gains increased damage because of this shield, and then becomes stronger and stronger with every hit, potentially, because you still need the defense break and the attack buff, but then again his first skill buffs his own attack, so this might become an interesting unit. And last but not least, well, yes, least, actually, the Minotaurs are getting attack buffs and some kind of heal, vampire-like buffs, but it's not enough to make them significant because their base stats are such shit. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this little review. This is the first time me doing this. I think I'm going to do this in the future, but I'm not entirely sure. Let me know what you thought about this patch. Do you like the buffs, and do you think they've gone too far with some of these? I really like to know, and I always read the comments and reply to them as soon as I can. See you later!